But the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
PBS, this just in. An entire battalion of weaponized misogynists will be descending on hapless Chicago to forcefully fondle the city's innocence. With them are notorious fascist pug handler Count Dankula, rape joke enabler Sargon of Akkad, alt-right menace Mr. Reagan, Satan himself Paul Elam, and the devil's handmaid Karen Swan. We have just received word from an expert in hateology that if you even so much as look upon this conference, your eyes will be burned out of your skull, your tongue will invert, and your anus will seethe from the union. We repeat, do not so much as glance at this convention and its related paraphernalia of evil.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian, and this is the Week in Men's Rights. I am here with the British Badger Bells, Natty and Elizabeth, as you can see, and we also have a bonus guest that I don't have a little icon for, I'm afraid, but Fedelbogen is here. Hello, Fedelbogen, how are you?
Hello, Brian. How you doing?
I'm good. This is actually the first time that you and I have ever spoken to each other, so... that I know of. So this should be interesting, but it's good to have you on. And also, Elizabeth, how are you?
I'm good, thank you very much, Brian.
All right. And Natty, how are things?
I'm tired.
I understand
Thank you
that.
for asking.
Yeah. It's been a long day. It's pretty late over there. Is it like midnight right now, or?
It is past midnight, but that's not what it is exactly. I went to the Trump Arms yesterday, and I got home at 2:30 in the morning.
Oh, I see. So you were active last night. Because your baby was delivered, and so you're not carrying, right? Isn't that correct?
Huh?
Didn't you last time I saw you in person, you were pregnant. So I mean, I guess you're not pregnant anymore because it's been like a year, I assume. Unless you just perpetually carry babies.
Well, yeah, I probably am perpetually carrying babies. Anyway, yeah, no, my son's going to be 1 next week, man. Yeah.
Anyway. Well, there you go. Well, I guess it doesn't stop you from having late nights regardless. But anyway, we're getting a little bit off topic. So, welcome, Natty, Elizabeth, and Fedelbogen to the show. We got lots of things to cover today, and I want to be able to spend a decent amount of time talking about them. So I guess the first thing we're going to open up with, since it is late, and I think it's relevant, is this statement. Basically, we're looking at what I'm calling the fallout of the Cambridge University protests and talks and stuff. And maybe, Elizabeth and Natty can, shed some additional light. And I think Fedelbogen wanted to say some things about this too. So first, I'll start with...
We'll take that as it comes.
Yeah, we'll take it as it goes. There you go. First, I'll start by reading this statement from a John Bailey regarding the alleged assault on him and his son. So Elizabeth put this through, but I'm going to read it for you guys. On the 24th of May, I decided to attend the J4MB, that's Justice for Men and Boys, talk at Cambridge University, Mill Lane, with my 16-year-old son. When I arrived at the venue, a number of protesters were already protesting the event by blocking the entrance to stop delegates from attending. This didn't stop us from attending. During the various talks, the protesters unsuccessfully attempted to disrupt the event by making noise outside of the event. The talk itself covered the history of feminism and the attack on men's rights. On leaving the event, we followed directions from the security staff, which resulted in my son and I walking past a large crowd of protesters. A male protester decided to jump around my son, verbally harassing him, swearing and waving both hands in my son's face whilst making an offensive V symbol. I approached this protester to ask why he thought it was acceptable to harass a minor. The protester decided to harass me instead. I then decided it would be best to walk away, at which point I was surrounded by a group of protesters. Whilst I was surrounded, a liquid was thrown over me. I then tried to push my way out of the crowd as I was now concerned about my safety. The protesters grabbed me from behind and I was restrained by both arms and an arm around my neck. I was kicked and punched multiple times. It was only when a passerby pulled me from the crowd that I was able to escape. During my assault, my son tried to get back to me. It was at this time that another protester challenged Matthew, asking him if he was a hard man. Matthew, I assume, is this man's son's name. Okay. This protester was 6'4" and well built. He pushed his forehead into my son's face. He used his head to push Matthew back. He also used his size to intimidate Matthew. We also saw protesters waving signs saying, quote, "Milkshake the misogynists," end quote. I take that as an incitement to commit violence, which is exactly what happened to my son and I, simply because we attended a talk. At no point did we express any feelings on the subject of the talk, one way or the other. So, it's like the Glass Blindspot said, Brian Blindspot, who I actually had on the show a few weeks back. First, they came for the MRAs. And, but I wanted to, like, give Elizabeth, Natty, and Fedelbogen a chance to speak to this incident if there's anything you guys want to say. I know that Elizabeth is the one who sent me to this. She was in a foul mood earlier. I think it was related to this, though. But, Elizabeth, if you could.
Yeah, I blogged this today, and I was really upset actually reading it because, you know, we spoke directly after the event on Honey Badger Radio, didn't we? And I was saying that we'd bumped into these guys and they were clearly shaken and they told us a bit about what had happened, but I didn't know the extent of the violence that had gone on, you know, and it's scary. It really is.
Absolutely. And there's no, I mean, I don't think that they would have expected something like this to happen because there's no footage or anything like that. But I think that it's highly probable that something like this would have happened. Were any of you guys weren't there? Like, you didn't see that? You just saw them or ran into them afterwards and they told you about this experience, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
actually, there is another element. There actually, I mean, where it happened, there are no cameras because it's on campus.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the protesters actually uploaded a clip of it to Twitter.
Oh,
And
really?
Oh, I didn't know that.
The first thing I saw was someone responding to them saying, "That guy's not harassing you. He's trying to get away." And then I followed the thread up and the tweet had been deleted. So it was deleted before I ever got a chance to view it, you know, or indeed take it down for myself and for the police.
Which tweet, Elizabeth? Which tweet was deleted now again?
The tweet that had the clip of this incident. But I mean, I spoke to the person who'd responded and I said, you know, is this what you were looking at? And they said, yeah. So I mean,
somebody took it down mighty quick.
If only I checked Twitter more often.
Yeah. So it was down. Someone took it down, probably because it wasn't a good look for them. Maybe they should have had Carlos Maza put it up. It probably would have stayed up. So, okay. So any other thoughts, or did you get a chance to, because it would have been really great to actually like interview this man and his son. Did you guys get a chance to see them again or talk to them or anything?
Well, we bumped into them, you know, as the police were talking to them after it had just happened. So, you know, it wasn't really appropriate to do that at that point. I mean, his son was sitting on a wall and he looked really shaken up.
Yeah, I bet.
You know, yeah, and it was pretty obvious that, you know, something had gone down where, you know, he was surprised, you know, by the whole thing, as in he didn't look like someone who's experienced that before. So I don't know. I mean, Elizabeth, you've been in touch with them, so maybe
yeah,
they
I'm
would be
in
willing.
touch with them. Yeah.
Maybe I'm not sure.
Do you what are you well we don't want to put I wouldn't want to put them in an awkward situation to have to make a statement, but are you talking to them about maybe like speaking up about the incident other outside of this like sort of open letter?
Well, I mean, they're in touch with the police, and I'm planning to write to the university just to inform them of everything that's gone on, and I'll obviously include that statement. But I mean, I could certainly ask if they would be, interested in talking to you or to
Mhm.
anybody else who wanted to talk to them. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I'd absolutely talk to them. I'd really like to because I'd want to know if they've ever been to any of these events before, if they've ever, if they thought this was going to happen and that kind of thing. It honestly doesn't surprise me. It's interesting, all this stuff with like milkshakes and essentially, I'm just gonna put it out there. This is assault. This is violent behavior, even if the violence, doesn't appear to be immediately threatening or or whatever. It doesn't matter. The point is that people's personal space is being invaded, and we're talking about something that is assault. It's not words. People are throwing things, and you don't, and that inevitably, the moment you see that you have permission to throw shit at people, even if it's like appears to be harmless things like milkshakes, it's easy for people to step it up. And so like when this 6'4" gentleman approached a 16-year-old kid and tried to use his size to intimidate him while pushing his forehead into this boy's face, it seems like this is something that people think is not only like, okay, but it's probably something that should be done because they're misogynists, right? We can't have these people around. This is the logic.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to be honest, I really didn't see this coming. I saw the milkshake coming from a mile off, but I thought that we're too British to do things like actually, punch people and hit people and stuff like that. And I kind of, in the lead up, I was thinking back. I don't know if any of you have ever seen the clip where some protesters burst into a Jacob Rees-Mogg speech, and he just calmly walks up to them and starts talking to them, and they're like shouting in his face and stuff, and he's just talking to them very civilly. And afterwards, people were like, "Were you scared? Were you scared?" And he was like, "Of course I'm not. We're British." And I that kind of attitude.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously the mob mentality kind of took over, and behavior that is not acceptable suddenly became acceptable. And
Yeah.
it's like
I think it was acceptable to these people in their own minds. It was perfectly acceptable to them in their own minds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the idea of the stiff upper lip, that's just toxic masculinity, Elizabeth. Stoicism, that's just toxic masculinity. I don't know if you know that, but people just need to let their emotions rule them and use violence, because then they're in their truth, they're in their true self, and whatever happens, hey, that's just nature, man.
Brian, that sounds like a Poe.
Actually, though, I mean, it sounds like I'm making a joke, but I actually think that they believe that shit. That
Of course they do. Of course they do.
As long as that is happening in the correct direction,
Mm-hmm.
So as long as it's going in the right direction, and of course they accuse their enemies of doing that very same thing, of being emotional and reactionary. But
hey, can you say Darvo? Can you say Darvo?
Darvo, yeah, sure. That's exactly what's going on.
Yeah. So that
political Darvo.
One who's not initiated or doesn't know the term, that stands for deny. So deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. Sorry. So that's basically about denying any, poor behavior or antisocial acts that you're responsible for, and falsely accusing the victim in the situation of being the aggressor. And that's kind of, it's a term that Erin Pizzey uses, and it's used in like domestic violence kind of situations. Erin Pizzey, I mean, I actually spoke about it in my speech actually at Cambridge. She says that quite often she's seen women who are the aggressors in domestic violence situations use this. And, obviously, because our police forces and our social services are all trained in the Duluth model, they are likely to believe any woman who uses Darvo. But yeah, it's exactly what these protesters.
I think our entire society has been indoctrinated into the Darvo model of thinking. Basically, this is Darvo. This is political Darvo. This is Darvo on a grand scale.
Actually, I don't disagree with that.
Up down, but some very powerful people.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. But go ahead, Natty.
No, I was gonna say, I remember when I went to Battle of Ideas, not this year, last year. No, it hasn't happened this year yet. No, not the last one. The one before that.
R.I.P. headphone users.
Oh,
I heard a high pitched beep. I'm just warning people with headphones. Although it's late.
That was me. A text came through.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Sorry.
What was I saying? Yeah, it reminds me of this talk that I went to that was talking about the rising threat of the alt-right or something like that. And no one was talking about the tactics of the hard left and how they contributed to, this rising alt-right that they were all kind of getting a little bit too scared about. And how we are basically under, as you've correctly put it, under Darvo by the hard left, combined with all their supporters. Well, I
think we ought to popularize the term Darvo into the common language as much as we can. This will give people a way to talk about the problem.
Definitely. I think it's a good idea.
Highly apt for this situation, like in its entirety, as we'll discover more about later.
Yeah.
We should move on to the next story, but yeah, I hope that this gentleman, John Bailey, and his son Matthew, this will probably cause them to think more about these issues. This experience will probably have the opposite effect of what the left wants. So that should be interesting. We'll have to see how things unfold, but definitely a worthwhile thing to point out and cover. So now I think
this cloud has a silver lining.
Yeah. What was outside of what I said, or?
Well, just in line with what you said.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's how I see it too. Whenever people get violent like that, or they start practicing mass censorship and shit, it actually makes people more curious. This is why I think the MRM has been growing steadily, and in ways that are pretty subtle too. For example, I'm just gonna put this out there. Every time I see Sargon, Carl Benjamin, get into a debate that's in front of a big enough audience, a men's issue is brought up. And I know that he's making a conscious choice to do that because he's not stupid. And so he gets people thinking about men's issues without even having to necessarily call himself an MRA or say that he's going in there specifically to do that. And it is working well. And it means that it's something that he's thinking about as well. And he's getting other people talking about it. This whole "I wouldn't even rape you" business, it all came out of, wanting to discuss male suicide. And this is what every time they throw this at him, he tries to bring up male suicide. When he did a video, we're going to get into this later on, but he did a video today about this Vox Adpocalypse business. And he used that video to make a point about, this milkshake incident. He actually talked about this. The milkshake incident and, what happened at the Cambridge talks. So, and he said, he mentioned Brian Blindspot, the guy who I had on. And so this is whether this is a conscious choice or not, the point is this conversation is expanding and it's reaching more people, and this is the silver lining. I mean, it's unfortunate that these things happen, but you know, there is that's happening. It's getting people thinking about it. I mean, if people have like the savvy to look into it. I mean, this is the reason why I believe this year's ICMI is going to be the biggest one yet. By the way, go to icmi.info to check it out. And I think there's a fundraiser coming, so you can help us put it on. It's going to be the biggest one yet. The biggest one. Tremendous. Okay, but anyway, let us move on to the next story. A very interesting one. This has been going around. So Alabama, there's an Alabama bill that aims to punish false accusations of rape, and the media is freaking out. This article comes from the Daily Wire, written by the lovely Ash Scow, my friend as well. And I'll just read a little bit of her version, but then I'll look at the actual bill itself, which I also have ready, and then we'll give opinions on that. So in the age of #MeToo, we're supposed to believe all women when they make accusations of a sexual nature. But as I have shown time and time and time again, this is something that Ash has been doing for years. She started doing this with a college paper. That's how long she's been doing this. That is simply not true. Even when an accusation is proven to be false via text or video evidence, the false accuser faces little to no consequences. Certainly far fewer consequences than the person falsely accused faces. Alabama State Representative E. Richard Drake is trying to change that. Earlier this month, Drake introduced ALHB 544, a bill that would punish false accusations of sexual crime. As it stands, false accusers are only charged with filing a false police report, which is a misdemeanor. Drake's bill would make it a Class C felony to willfully, knowingly, and with malicious intent make a false report of rape in the first degree, sodomy in the first degree, or sexual torture. The allegations would need to be proven false in order for the accuser to be punished. And there's more to it, but let's go ahead and look at the bill itself, which I have right here. So, synopsis. I won't read everything, but I'll read like the important bits. This bill would create the crime of making a false sexual allegation and would provide penalties for violations. Amendment 621 of the Constitution of Alabama of 1901, now appearing as Section 11105 of the official recompilation of the Constitution of Alabama of 1901, as amended, prohibits a general law whose purpose or effect would be to require a new or increased expenditure of local funds from becoming effective with regard to a local governmental entity without enactment by a 2/3 vote unless it comes within one of a number of specified exceptions. It is approved by the affected entity, or the legislature appropriates funds or provides a local source of revenue to the entity for the purpose. The purpose or effect of this bill would be to require a new increased expenditure of local funds within the meaning of the amendment. However, the bill does not require approval of a local governmental entity or enactment by a 2/3 vote to become effective unless because it becomes within one of the specified exceptions contained in the amendment. So the bill relating to crimes and offenses to add sections blah 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 to the Code of Alabama 1975 to create the crime of making a false sexual allegation, to provide penalties, and in connection therewith would have as its purpose or effect the requirement of a new or increased expenditure of local funds within the meaning of Amendment 621 of the Constitution of Alabama, now appearing as Section 11105 of the official recompilation of the Constitution of Alabama of 1901 as amended. So it reads as follows. A person commits the crime of making a false sexual allegation if he or she willingly, knowingly, and with malicious intent makes a false report of rape in the first degree, sodomy in the first degree, or sexual torture, and whose allegations are proven to be false. And it goes on to make like a couple of other examples of like doing it in the second degree, sodomy in the second degree, sexual misconduct, sexual abuse in the first degree, blah, blah, blah. So there are like sort of like reduced penalties going on down the line. So essentially, the idea is, as Ash stated, it's supposed to take a false allegation and makes it a felony as opposed to a misdemeanor. So what do you guys think about this bill? Do you think this is a good idea, or is it going to make things worse? I'm gonna go ahead and give the floor to whoever, because I think that Elizabeth wanted to. She said she had a hot take about this. So go ahead.
Does anyone
Elizabeth.
want to come in before I go with my hot take?
Yeah, go ahead.
No.
Okay. Well, right. Listen. Like, if you told me this 2 weeks ago, I'd have been like, yeah, go on, because it's clearly just. What would be just is if you treated people who make false allegations, you gave them the same fucking sentence that their victim would have got. Because obviously false accusers are criminals. But, I've got a question, like, are these false accusers, are they going to be people who have been caught out because someone's handed in, evidence of them talking on Facebook, like, oh yeah, it didn't happen, but I'm going to ruin his life because I'm a bad person? Or is it also going to affect people who come forward and say, look, I was lying? Because, and this is an Angry Harry point that Brent Black shared with me, it does happen. Like, you read stories wherein men have been in jail for like 20 years, and then, some woman comes forward and says, look, I'm sorry, I lied, and he's set free. And obviously the 20 years is a tragedy, but thank God he, is vindicated in the end. But surely if those women are faced with, a punishment of their own, they're going to be less likely to come forward. So, I think if the goal is to keep innocent men out of jail, I do worry that this could be counterproductive. Cases. And I mean, would it be possible? Could you make it so that if someone admits it, they don't get punished, but people who get caught out do get punished? Would that be possible? I don't know if that would be awful.
Well, I think admitting it would be kind of like the difference between pleading guilty and pleading innocent, in that there would still be a penalty, but it's probably reduced. But I mean, we're talking about but we're talking about, like, the thing is that right now, false allegations that put men in prison, and the problem with it is, a lot of times, if not most of the time, when you have accusations of rape, it becomes, or sexual assault or whatever, it becomes an exercise into trying to prove the accused party, that they end up trying to prove themselves innocent instead of the courts trying to prove them guilty. And it has a lot to do with activist judges and lawyers, as well as feminists sort of distorting the conversation around it. So the fact that we can't even, because just because a man is found innocent of the crime, and this is actually specified in the bill, doesn't mean that now we have to investigate if the girl was lying, because they still have to prove that as well. But I take what you're saying, like, there's a difference, I suppose, between, someone who is caught out, like, trying to, like, ruin someone's life, and someone who does something foolish, but that's already a misdemeanor as well. So I guess I'm looking at it from the perspective of, but what about the malicious, people who are trying to destroy men, because for whatever reason, there has to be something for that.
I have a question. In Alabama, can victims or claimants get compensation even if their case doesn't reach a conclusion?
I don't imagine so, but I don't know. That's a good question.
Because that's what's been going on in the UK. You can make a claim for compensation, financial compensation, from the police force, from the what's the department called? You get compensation from. My brain is not working today.
Oh my god.
That beep again. You can still make a claim for it, even if, say, for example, you accuse someone and they're found innocent.
Oh, Maddie dropped.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I mean, my answer to that is, like, I don't see how money helps a real victim of like rape or sexual assault. So I would say, you know, if someone is believed to be a victim, give them fucking therapy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's another thing too. I mean, there's definitely some gray area in there, but I don't imagine that this bill. Look, I want to put something else out there, something that hasn't. This is kind of the elephant in the room, as it were. Even though they're putting this bill out there, I don't necessarily believe that this is actually going to end up being applied as often as it probably should be. I don't think this is going to result in a lot of convictions of false accusers. In fact, I think that there will probably be many cases where the falsely accused men, because sometimes, yeah, there you are, you're back. I just want to make this.
Did you hear what I said?
No, you dropped in the middle of your sentence. I'll give you a chance to finish. I might as well just finish what I was gonna say. I'm gonna let you finish, but Natty, could you also raise your volume a little bit? You're a little lower than everybody else. So anyway, I just want to say that even if they pass this bill, I don't think that it's going to result in it's not actually necessarily going to be applied in the way that we would expect, because again, you know, we are still dealing with a lot of there's a lot of like political ideology wrapped up in the legal system around women in general. And that makes it hard for us to hold them accountable for stuff that they do, even if we have a law for it. It could be a deterrent, which is good in that regard, but I don't think it's going to actually end up playing out, because there's going to be a lot of cases where, you know, a girl can cry that even though she did all this maliciously, etc., she just wasn't in the proper headspace. She was, you know, going through some temporary insanity. You know, it could be that she was on her period, whatever. You know, she can come up with an excuse, and then people will give her a lighter sentence. Or the man won't press charges. He'll say, well, you know what, no harm, no foul, I'm not guilty, so it's okay. So I think that even if it goes through, it's probably not gonna it may not actually be applied evenly regardless. So I just want to put that out there. That go ahead,
Brian. I think you've you know, whether you know it or not, I think you've made a good case for passing this law. I mean, if you think that it's not going to be...
I agree. I think it should be passed, because I think that even then you might only get close to even in terms of actually like punishing false accusers, because there's no way that this is going to result in overreach, because I don't think that I don't think the legal system would do it, because whammon.
Okay, so as I was saying, I think you've made a good case for passing the law. I want to address a point that Elizabeth made a couple of minutes ago. And Liz, you can correct me if I'm wrong about this, but you said to the effect that, oh, my memory is failing me here, but you said something.
I can put it in a nutshell. You know, basically what we want to do, of course we want to disincentivize false accusations, but surely we also want to incentivize false accusers to admit that they've lied.
Okay,
and if you think we're going to punish you, that's a disincentive to admit.
Okay, thank you, Liz. You've just refreshed my memory there. You were saying something to the effect that false accusers might be disincentivized from coming forward and admitting that they had made their false accusation.
That's my concern.
Yeah, and that's a good concern. Now we need to balance that. We need to balance that somehow on the other side of the law by... Nah, I've totally forgotten. I've totally forgotten what I was going to say.
Hit the like button. We'll balance it in some way, right? Hit the like button, guys. It really does wonders for our analytics. Okay.
Shall I repeat what I
Yeah, Natty, please.
I was saying how in the UK you can still claim compensation even if the case never gets concluded. So if say you made a false accusation, and the person is found innocent, or you made an accusation and a crime happened, but they haven't found who done it, because you know you are still believed, you can still claim compensation and get the money over here. Not always, but you can. It is possible. And I was just wondering if Alabama has that same policy, because if that exists over there and they pass this, I'm just saying they need to look at incentives for people to make false accusations as well, if there are any others. And also, is this going to apply to family court? I'm not sure, if there are any differences in how family court is applied in Alabama compared to elsewhere in the US. But you can make accusations in family court without necessarily going to the police. Yeah,
that's true. That's true. They can use it in different places.
Unless it's an allegation of a sexual offense, it doesn't seem to apply to that, does it?
It only applies to sexual torture, sodomy, rape, sexual assault, sexual harassment too, but that's really low level. It's like a misdemeanor. So,
listen. My train of thought came back to me here. Basically, the remedy on the other side of the law is that we've got to strike at the root of the problem, and that is the standards of evidence in a courtroom scenario.
Yeah, you're so right.
We strike at that. The fact that a lot of women would be deterred from testifying if this law were passed can be remedied on the other side if we simply go after the problem of the standard of evidence, make it clear and convincing. Just set the standard of evidence pretty high, and so it's just not so likely that men are going to be railroaded into prison through the court process.
Yeah.
So if you're going to pass the law, which will disincentivize women or victims from coming forward, then you can fix that by, like I said, balancing on the other side. And that's just my 10 cents for the moment.
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
Yeah, that's a fair statement. I think it'll be a real challenge, not only because of feminist activist types that work in the legal system a lot of times, but also because of trad cucks and white knights that also
those challenges will always be present.
Yes, they'll always be present.
The only way to go is forward.
No, it's true. It's true. All right. Well, anyways, we're going to go ahead and move on to the last story. If there's any final thoughts anyone has, please hit the like button. If you don't hit like, then I'm going to have to assume that you work for Vox. So, just hit the like button if you could. Otherwise, I'm going to be suspicious of your intentions. Any final thoughts on this story regarding Alabama law? It's just a bill right now, so let's also keep that in mind. Remember, women vote, so this may never pass, but it's being introduced as a bill, and I'm sure that people are good. Well, the mainstream media is already on top of it, and they're just gonna make this into a giant shit show. So, all right.
My final thought on that is that the law ought to be passed, and even if it's not passed, this giant shit show that you're talking about could also be milked for propaganda value in some way, but that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, you're right. Let me just read the headline from MSNBC just so you can see how backwards their thinking is, okay? Regarding this particular law, they wrote, Alabama bill would make false rape allegations a crime. And then they write, in the midst of debating a radical anti-abortion law, state Republicans proposed a bill that could punish victims for coming forward. Victims?
Yeah, that's that word again.
Let's clear this up. A person who makes a false rape allegation is not a fucking victim. There is a difference. If you are accused and found guilty of making a false rape allegation, you are not a victim. So stop it. Don't
You're not a victim until you've been proven to be a victim. Let's not forget that.
Yes. So you have to be proven to be a victim. But yeah, this is how, they literally write two sentences and contradict themselves immediately. That's how dumb the mainstream media is, or how dumb they think the average reader is, which is entirely, that's probably more likely. Anyhow, last story, and then we're going to the after show and continue the conversation. You guys may have heard a little bit about this. YouTube to delete thousands of accounts after it bans supremacists, conspiracy theorists, and other harmful users. This article from The Independent. I also have a version from the New York Times, which might be even better, entitled "YouTube to remove thousands of videos pushing extreme views." Okay, so let's look at the New York Times version. Oh, well, you know how they define extreme view. Anything that they disagree with. Basically, whatever doesn't go along with their mainstream view is extreme.
Exactly.
Okay, so I posted about this earlier on Facebook. Sorry, Brian, I feel like your days are numbered. Honey Badger Radio's days are numbered if this is the case.
I agree, 100%.
And so I posted about this earlier because, in America, you've got SPLC and other various slimy NGOs like that. And then in the UK, we've got Hope Not Hate and a few others as well. And these guys are actively advising the government and social media companies on what should be considered extreme or harmful or hate speech. As we all know, this is going on.
Could you talk a little, either a little bit closer to your microphone or raise your volume? You're a little low.
Oh, hang on.
You know how to raise your volume?
Hello.
It's not that you're
louder?
You're a little bit louder.
Am I really loud now?
You're good. You're good. Maybe
okay.
I'm gonna bump you up. I think I've already bumped you up all the way. Let me see. I'm gonna bump you up all the way. All right,
I'm
go
wearing
ahead.
a pair of headphones.
Oh,
I'm not
that's
sure
beautiful.
They're the best.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Let me start again. Right. So, I mean, I'm sure everyone is aware in this channel and the listeners as well, probably, that we've got these NGOs that advise social media companies and governments as to what should be considered extreme and harmful and hate speech. And so I posted this earlier in Women Against Feminism on Facebook, and somebody was talking about how, how they're glad that extreme and harmful content will be, removed from YouTube. And I was absolutely flabbergasted that they are still not there yet, understanding that what is now defined as extreme are people like me and Elizabeth and you and Fidel Bogan. In the Hope Not Hate report this year, we were all mentioned. I mean, not Fidel Bogan necessarily, but me and Elizabeth were mentioned.
Thank goodness.
And as an example of hate and extremism. And when I was talking to this BBC producer the other day, and he was talking to me about featuring my project that I'm doing, and I was saying to him, and in a film about no platforming and free speech, and I was saying to him, if you want to do a film about no platforming and free speech, then you need to contact the people who are advising the government and social media companies as to what speech they should be, that is acceptable, and stop wasting your time trying to demonize us, because that is basically what you're trying to do with your film, even more than we already are. And so, we're now in what is this, like the third purge, or is this the second purge of YouTube?
I think this is the third purge. I think that they've tried. This is the third time they tried to do it. So, and I want to make a point about YouTube. But are you finished with your statement, Nat? I want to give it. Make sure you have a chance to make your statement.
I'm done. I don't think I've got no more to add right now.
Well, we will definitely have more to say on this. I'm going to read through this article, and then I want to give an opinion on something. So this is the New York Times one, okay? YouTube announced plans on Wednesday to remove thousands of videos and channels that advocate neo-Nazism, white supremacy, and other bigoted ideologies in an attempt to clean up extremism and hate speech on its popular service. The new policy will ban videos alleging that a group is superior in order to justify discrimination, segregation, or exclusion, the company said in a blog post. The prohibition will also cover videos denying that violent incidents like the mass shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Connecticut took place. YouTube did not name any specific channels or videos that would be banned. It's our responsibility to protect that and prevent our platform from being used to incite hatred, harassment, discrimination, and violence, the blog post said. The decision by YouTube, which is owned by Google, is the latest action by a Silicon Valley company to stem the spread of hate speech and disinformation on its site. A month ago, Facebook evicted 7 of its most controversial users, including Alex Jones, the conspiracy theorist and founder of InfoWars. Twitter barred Mr. Jones last year. The companies have come under intense criticism for their delayed reaction to the spread of hateful and false content. At the same time, President Trump and others argue that the giant tech platforms censor right-wing opinions, and the new policies put in place by the companies have inflamed those debates. The tension was evident on Tuesday when YouTube said a prominent right-wing creator who used racial language and homophobic slurs to harass a journalist in videos on YouTube did not violate his policies, or its policies. The decision set off a firestorm online, including accusations that YouTube was giving a free pass to some of its popular creators. In the videos, that creator, Steven Crowder, a conservative commentator with nearly 4 million YouTube subscribers, repeatedly insulted Carlos Maza, a journalist from Vox. Mr. Crowder used slurs about Mr. Maza's Cuban-American ethnicity and sexual orientation. Mr. Crowder said that his comments were harmless, and YouTube determined that they did not break its rules. He also has a really great lawyer that's constantly on retainer. That probably helps too. Opinions can be deeply offensive, but if they don't violate our policies, they'll remain on our site, YouTube said in a statement about its decision on Mr. Crowder. The back-to-back decisions illustrated a central theme that has defined the moderation struggles of social media companies. Making rules is often easier than enforcing them. Anyway, there's more to it. I'm not going to read everything, but there's a couple things that are really obvious, that should be really obvious to you, because I know a lot of people have said this, okay? Number one, they want to clean up and remove channels that advocate neo-Nazism, white supremacy, and other bigoted ideologies in an attempt to clean up extremism and hate speech. The problem is this, okay?
The kicker is in the sentence, other bigoted ideologies.
Yeah, but here's the thing, because that's important. When you say other bigoted ideologies, that means what?
Exactly.
Just about anything.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly, and this is why I'm not hugely worried about this, whether I'm right or wrong in feeling that way. But the thing is, if YouTube tries to push the envelope too far, it's just going to turn around and bite them. It's going to backfire on them.
I honestly,
when you get into the territory of other bigoted ideologies, it's going to come back and bite them eventually. And the further they push the envelope, the more trouble it'll get them into.
I don't think that they care about that. That's the one thing that I was gonna say. I don't think YouTube cares, and I'll tell you.
But they don't care about getting in trouble, or they don't care about who they hurt. They don't.
No, they don't care. They don't care about, like you said, overreach. Okay, so here's what they're doing, and this is this is what I believe is going on. Okay, they got rid of Alex Jones. That was a test. That was to see what the blowback was going to be. And it worked out because a majority of people who were, not far left outlets that have YouTube channels, I won't even say they're right wing. I just say that they're not left wing. Okay. They could be centrist. They could be milquetoast as fuck. They could be far right. They could be unaligned, whatever. Most of them said, well, Alex Jones, that's okay. And that means it passed the test, right? Because they're like, well, he's really extreme. That's probably a good idea, whatever. I disagree with whatever it is that they may have said to justify that happening. The moment that happened, YouTube said, oh, well, we got away with that. Let's get somebody else that's a little bit less extreme. And it just kind of escalated.
I think there's the limit to how far they can push that.
Yeah, but there is no limit to how far they'll push it, because the thing is that let's also look at it this way. Ghazi Kodo, Black Hitler, he still has a YouTube channel. He hasn't been taken down. His ideas are awful. Like, they are really, really bigoted. But they don't think of him as a bigot. Carlos Maza, the Vox guy, he's actually made calls to violence on Twitter, and his videos are constantly attacking people. He just does it in his way, and he has the right politics. He's still up there. What about the YouTube channel called The Cut that had videos of children, like really little children, playing with sex toys and talking to their parents about, you know, about sex and stuff? Just really weird shit, okay? And I mean explicitly discussing, or discussions about masturbation, talking to their children.
Those weird double standards that YouTube applies, it may take a while, but little by little, I think that's going to catch up to them too. You know, when they get called out for that sort of behavior.
No, I don't think they care.
I don't think they care. No, because here's the thing.
They don't care about their own bottom line. They don't care about what happens to your business, about the blowback from the public.
No, because YouTube...
No, because they don't make any money.
Yeah, they haven't profited off of their website in forever, so they don't make money anyway, for one. Secondly, they're backed by Google and Alphabet, so if you don't think that YouTube... This is the other thing I really needed to make a point about, okay? I've seen a lot of people saying that what's happening is that YouTube is kowtowing to giant multimedia corporations like Vox, and they're doing what they're doing their bidding in an effort to you know, because they think that it's the right move because Vox is forcing their hand. I don't think that that's what's happening. I think YouTube believes in what they're doing. I think that people that work at YouTube are in that Silicon Valley bubble, and that Susan Wojcicki thinks that she really is removing hate speech when she decides to remove, you know, content creators. It's not because Vox is not, they're not doing things to YouTube that YouTube don't want to do. YouTube wants to do this. They're just trying to figure out what the best way to do it is. And it's only a matter of time before they say, you know what, fuck it, let's just get rid of everybody. And I think that's what's going to happen here. They've tried demonetization. They've tried the adpocalypse, you know, before. Now they're just going to start taking channels off YouTube. And it could be the death of them in the long run, but only if a suitable competitor rises from, you know, the ashes on another part of the internet that everyone goes to. Now, I will say that, so what I'm saying is YouTube wants to do this. They believe in this. They are a feminist leftist organization. They believe that this is the right thing to do. Because of that, because here's the thing, okay? Somebody might say, when you read that sentence, you know, channels that advocate neo-Nazism, white supremacy, and other bigoted ideologies. There are people who would say, and a lot of them, like you know, middle of the road, average conservative types, like Ben Shapiro would say, well, of course we should remove neo-Nazis and white supremacists. I just have a problem with the bigoted ideologies part. No, fuck that. That's bullshit. There's either free speech or there isn't. I don't care if there are neo-Nazis out there on YouTube making videos. I don't watch them. I don't give a shit. But if you start saying these people are okay to remove and these people are not, you are telling them that at some point it's okay for them to do that to you. It's either all okay or none of it is okay. And I know that they're a private company and they can do whatever they want, but
they're not, though. They're not a private company.
No, they get government subsidies and stuff. Thanks. Oh, yeah. You want me to? My wife wants me to open up a bottle. Okay, here. I know that's the case, but the thing is, if you don't stand up for even the people whom you despise, whose content you don't agree with, then you are basically telling the company to ban you at some point. So I will, and by the way, why do they use as their examples, they say neo-Nazism, white supremacy. What about black identitarians? What about Islamic identitarians? What about, you know, communists online? Are those guys okay? They don't seem to bring them up. That's because they don't think that those people should be removed. They don't find them to be a problem. This is like they're telling you that they're far left people right off the bat.
Ryan, I think we can agree that their free speech is fundamental, and you seem to be saying that nobody should be banned, even the worst people. The worst
I don't.
Nazis. Yeah,
absolutely,
exactly. And I'm going to say, I know. Okay, we're on the same page about that. I agree with that totally.
Yeah.
Free speech. Who was it? John Adams said that, or one of the founding fathers of the United States said, might have been Thomas Jefferson. You know, error of opinion may be tolerated where reason is left free to combat it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And yeah.
The best disinfectant is sunlight. You know,
Sure.
if you stop people who have really bad, dangerous ideas from expressing them in public. You don't get rid of the ideas. You embolden the ideas. You make them go, shit, man, they won't let me talk about it. What are they afraid of if it's not true? And you make them collect into these little communities where they're just, confirmation biasing each other. And you need to expose.
You drive it underground where the pressure builds and builds and eventually breaks through.
Yeah. Another thing I want to say too, and I know this is going to sound a little black-pilled, but I don't think that moving to another platform alone is going to save us, because if we don't nip this shit in the bud, the internet in general will, the people who have the most power on the internet, they're trying to make the internet into something that fits their image of what the internet should look like. So we're not just up against YouTube. We're up against Google. We're up against, like massively powerful organizations that think that this is what the internet should look like. And so if you go to BitChute, they're just going to find ways to destroy BitChute. If you go to Minds, if you go to, especially if those platforms become popular, let's look at it like this. The one thing that I think is a saving grace is that PewDiePie. Okay, PewDiePie is what? Is he still the biggest YouTuber, or did T-Series overtake him? I don't know, but he's definitely one of, if not the biggest YouTuber out there right now, okay? If PewDiePie leaves YouTube, which he might, and YouTube might get rid of him, but I doubt that they will, because I think he's too big. But if he leaves, because a lot of the people that he normally follows himself, and yeah, he follows Sargon and Alf's Void and a couple of other people, if he leaves, then he's going to bring a massive audience with him. But if wherever he goes, he makes that audience big, that platform might become a threat to YouTube as like the mainstream platform, whatever it might be, right? With one exception, which I'll bring up a little bit later. But and they're going to try and destroy that platform because they don't want a competition. Look what they did to Gab, okay? Yes, you can get on Gab, but can you find a Gab app on the Android or on the Apple Store? No. Because they're in on it. Like this, they're trying to control the conversation. So it's not going to be easy. Yes, I think that we have a BitChute, and we also have Minds as well, but Honey Badger Radio's days are numbered if they do this. And yeah, I'm not saying that we're so popular that they're going to take notice right away. Obviously, we're not. But the point is, it's just a matter of time. Besides, how do you think they're going to go about removing videos? Do you think they're going to have human beings looking at all the channels, at the millions and millions of channels that are on YouTube? Or are they just going to have an algorithm look for stuff, and then based on a number of hits, they remove a channel?
Yeah, that is most likely. I just want to jump in and add on to that. It's that people, I'm getting a bit despairing at people who seem to think it's still a free market working here. It's not. Like, the WikiLeaks has already proved that Google is already colluding with the U.S. government, elements of the U.S. government, the Democrat elements, and the elements that are keen on having internet censorship. They've already proved that to be the case. And so therefore, obviously, if that's what's Google, then obviously that's YouTube. And, the EU and the UN, both of them are keen on, policing speech and, all this stuff to do with hate speech as well. And they will put pressure on any competitor that does rise up and become bigger, like an equivalent to YouTube almost. So we're not going to have no one's going to rise up and compete. Sorry, my baby's making noise in the background. No one is going to rise up and compete with YouTube at this point, I don't believe. We're just going to have like a bunch of small sites, and like maybe one of them we'll have someone like PewDiePie on that.
Yeah, PewDiePie did go to a different live streaming platform, and we are on Twitch, which right now, Twitch hasn't gotten into any major sort of controversies around censorship that I know of, but I don't think that Twitch is going to be ideal. But here's my suggestion. I think we should all move to Pornhub.
No, you are You're fucking onto something.
I
there,
know.
mate.
I know.
Because
if we okay, first of all, well, I'm sure you do. First of all, if we all go to Pornhub and make videos there, I think you can live stream there, and people upload non-porn videos on Pornhub all the time. And if we all went to Pornhub, not only would we have a giant audience waiting to watch content anyway, sometimes you need a break between, like, you know, hating yourself for jerking off to that last thing you watched, and you want to decompress. A Honey Badger Radio video is perfect. But also, there is no fucking way that anyone on the internet can take down Pornhub. There is no way. You can't beat porn. That is one thing that everyone has learned. If they try to take down Pornhub, it will result in their own destruction. It's like the only thing that they can't handle. Just something to think about. Just think about that for a second. I mean, it's kind of a joke, but not really, because I think that we can straight up make a Pornhub account and start streaming there, and we would have an audience. So, just something to think about. Well, and we'll probably get some decent advertising that you might want to watch too. Who knows? So,
well, hopefully in the future, if enough people start uploading content to Pornhub, then they will have a safe haven there. And until the Pornhub people finally decide to go political and start taking people down. But I don't see that happening. So it's really not such a joke at all. I think it's a decent idea.
Pornhub did go political. Pornhub, they've got like some kind of Twitter account, and someone at Pornhub posted a tweet that was something like, men do not get to make decisions about women's bodies after the Alabama abortion thing.
Yeah, Pornhub is woke too, sure, but I mean, I think they are to a degree, but I think that they're pretty much like, they're probably pretty strong on the free speech end, you know, considering the content. They're likely aware of that stuff. So it's something to think about. I don't know. I'll talk to Alison about it if this YouTube thing ends up impacting us. But I think that we should be ready. We should be ready if you know, if this thing goes through. But I think that it really will. We're gonna see a purge pretty soon. The other thing, I should read some super chats. I apologize. If you guys want to send us super chats, please do. Mr. Roboto gives us $5 and says, idea, the person who lied gets to carry the same charge till his or her record is expunged. This is in regards to the Alabama bill. I'm gonna mute Natty for a little bit here. Sorry, Natty, I'm just gonna mute you. Your baby's making all kinds of noise. Vercingetorix gives us $2 and says, this law bolsters, quote, why would she lie arguments. Yeah, I think that it's going to become that is a possible side effect of that as well. Xeranx gives us $5.
I think those are good arguments. I think those are good arguments because they could lead to conversations that we need to be having.
Yeah, I agree. Xeranx gives us $5 and says, when you read out that title, I thought the Young Turks were gone. It seems Anna was right in there being better than us. No, obviously they won't. That's the thing. Like, this purging of extremist views, it's not extremist views, dude. It's non-Silicon Valley left-wing views. Those are considered extreme. Like, I mean, like, seriously, to the point now where if Bernie Sanders had a YouTube channel, they might take it down, because it's too right-wing for them, you know? Solomon Grundy gives us $5 and says, guess I'll have to cancel my YouTube Red subscription before long. Yeah, I think it's in part two, there is a desire that YouTube wants to go super mainstream. I think that's going to bite them on the ass in a way. They're probably going to lose viewership, but because you know what? I think that there will be unfortunate channels that get taken down that are enjoyed by Generation Z people, or that'll result in them leaving. So I guess we'll have to see, though. Thank you, Solomon Grundy. Xeranx gives us $5 and says, Carlos Maza, YouTube, be well the other content creators. Ciara de Flora gives us $2 and says, RIP anyone who lives in Mormon country. And yeah, really, go to anybody who wants to watch Pornhub that lives in Mormon country might have a problem. Bendolin Rax gives us $2 Canadian, and writes parentheses =, up arrow dot looks like a little number, Roman number 2, dot, up arrow, equal sign, parenthesis, slash, parenthesis, a little Japanese character or something, up arrow, dot, I don't know what that is, another dot, another up arrow, parenthesis, and another little, looks like a little Japanese character. There you go.
Finally, someone's making sense on this stream.
Yeah, really. Anyway, so does anyone else have any other thoughts on this YouTube purge story? If not, then we will move into the after show and continue.
I will share my thoughts when I see it happen.
Hey,
until then, I'm just going to watch the show.
Go ahead, Liz.
Brian,
What's up?
Can you check out our message box? Because this is not the last story. I want you to read the email to Varsity from Mike Buchanan regarding the protesters going fully Darvo.
Oh, is it further up? Let me see.
It's not in Facebook. In
in here? Oh yeah. Hold on.
And then I'd like to give the last word to some Pornhub commenters, if possible.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
Let's do it then. Okay, so an email exchange with Varsity, the Cambridge University students' propaganda outlet. I'm just gonna share the screen here. I know they were cat faces. I was being funny, dude. All right. I have received the following absurd email from Varsity. This is from Mike Buchanan, the man himself. Dear Mr. Buchanan, I hope this message finds you well. I am reaching out from Varsity regarding allegations which have been brought to our attention concerning the protests held against the event held by Justice for Men and Boys at the University of Cambridge late last month. If you could please respond to the following claims as soon as possible, I would be very grateful. Number 1. One protester who was stood among a group of protesters through which several attendees decided to walk on their way out of the event, despite allegedly being asked to use a different exit so as to avoid the protesters, claimed that one male attendee became, quote, more and more aggressive as he passed through the crowd and eventually tried to punch a male protester standing next to him, end quote. Do you want to respond to that? Or does he respond to that in this letter?
Let's just read it and maybe respond at the end.
Okay, sure. That sounds great. Number 2, another protester claims to have witnessed a female protester being pushed aggressively against a wall by an attendee of the event, while one claimed to have heard threats of sexual violence being directed towards a female protester. Number 3, one protester said that the alleged aggressive targeting and online harassment of students by Justice for Men and Boys supporters prior to the event gave good reason to suspect that they might act with violence towards protesters and women on campus. Number 4, our concerns about the well-being and safety of students and staff, which had been repeatedly raised prior to the Justice for Men and Boys event being hosted by the university, proved absolutely founded following the events, said one protester. Please do make a note of to whom your statement should be attributed in your response, and feel free to add any further comment you see fit regarding the events. Thank you in advance for your help. Kind regards, Varsity News Team. Wow. All right, my response. Thank you. Please attribute the following to me, though I know from previous exchanges you'll be very selective in what, if anything, you choose to publish. Number 1, the claims are nothing more than continuation of the lies and misrepresentations made against Justice for Men and Boys and its supporters since we announced the talks. If any evidence exists to support any of them, please publish them. Hint, no such evidence exists. Number 2, the police recorded an assault of a man and his 16-year-old son who attended the event. Our blog piece on the matter is here, which is I read that at the beginning of the show. Number 3, Varsity was allegedly complicit in the milkshake incident, given your photographer was there, and on your published piece, the photo was credited to Varsity. The man in the video following one of our supporters apprehending one of the assailants is here. Number 4, your outlet has been little more than a mouthpiece for lying feminist students and academics from the outset. You have published not one piece of evidence to substantiate any of their allegations against us, You should be utterly ashamed of yourselves for your absence of balanced critical journalism. Our blog pieces on the talks and associated matters here. Number 5, I look forward to seeing your editor and photographer in court facing charges in relation to the assaults. Best wishes, Mike Buchanan. I guess we don't have to respond to it then, because Mike already did.
He's pretty much covered it, hasn't he?
Yeah. Wow.
Well, I still have an article planned for J4MB, so maybe I can cover a little more ground there.
Good Lord. Well,
but yeah, this shows us what kind of people we're dealing with. I mean, they do nothing but lie and lie and lie and lie, and as fast as you shoot down one lie, they dump 10 more on you.
Yeah, well, because for them, the ends justify the means. So if they lie to you to remove you or get you fired or send you to jail or whatever, then that means you're no longer hurting women. So that's what their goal is. So you're no longer threatening their existence.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like...
Now the question is what to do about all this. You know, we got to put on our thinking caps and, you know, what are we going to do from here? There's got to be a way to deal with it.
Well, we can talk about that in the after show, because I think that we should go there. So we're going to do that. We can do that in the after show and, you know, talk about it. I think the first thing is exposing the truth, which Mr. Buchanan has done on his blog, which is available. I will include a link to this also in the low bar. I didn't put it there originally. Oh, and last thing, I wanted to show the Pornhub comment. This is why another reason why we could move to Pornhub, because they have the best comment section of any social media comment section. They have the best comment sections. So here's a comment. Why do we assume the core of a black hole has a singularity in it? How does it make sense that something can be infinitely dense, have zero volume? I could understand it if a black hole was an object of finite but extreme density. Then its escape velocity would still be stronger than the speed of light, but the laws of physics would still make sense at the core because space would not have infinite curvature there. But why do people say black holes have infinite density? And then Big Boy 132 responds and says, I think they refer to it as infinite simply because we don't know for sure. So it's not really infinite as much as it is indefinite. We are unable to define its density due to the size of it. So it's fairly safe to assume that it goes on forever for all intensive purposes. I've learned something about black holes today. Thank you, Pornhub. Okay, so let us know what you guys think about the stories in the low bar. If we were going to move YouTube to another platform, should we just like focus on Twitch for live streams? Or is there something else that's better? And maybe should we consider moving Honey Badger Radio over to Pornhub? Should we wait until we get kicked off? Or should we do it beforehand? I don't know. You let us know in the comments section. Also, tell us what you think about the Alabama bill, as well as this post, let's say, the aftermath of the Cambridge protests for justice for men and boys. And, excuse me, be sure to consider becoming a Badger yourself by going to feedthebadger.com. And that way you can join us in these conversations in the after show, and you can support the channel because, you know, YouTube's not really help. It's getting to the point now where I think YouTube is more trouble than it's worth, honestly. But it's not my call, it's Alison's. But, you know, if you could help us out, go to feedthebadger.com and start a monthly subscription there, because who knows, we may not be around tomorrow. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think YouTube might just use a computer algorithm to remove everyone at once, and it'll just be a different landscape. Who knows? So, well, anyway, with that said, I want to thank Natty and Elizabeth, as well as Fetal Bogan, for joining me on this episode of The Week in Men's Rights. I want to thank you guys for joining us on the show, and we'll talk to you guys very soon. Have a good night, everybody. Like, subscribe, comment, and share. Also hit the bell for notifications. Have a good one, everybody. I will talk to you later.